They said he was just a simple guy, a builder, a father, a hard worker without grand ambitions, someone easy to write off, easy to betray, easy to replace with a man who reeks of expensive cologne and flashes $1,000 watch. But some mistakes are too costly to go unpunished. It all started one morning with the buzz of a phone and a look in her eyes, one that held both fear and lies. From that moment, the snowball began to roll, and nothing could stop it. Day by day, like a seasoned craftsman, he built not a home, but a plan. Not from bricks, but from rage. Not for family, but for justice. Her mocking brother, her smug lover, the empty bank account, the children twisted into weapons, every piece became fuel for the fire inside him. But revenge isn't a burst of fury, it's a process, cold, calculated, and if someone dares to destroy your life, they better be ready to watch their own crumble, under the weight of consequences, under judgment, under truth, because there are people who can't be broken by betrayal or poverty, only angered so deeply, so dangerously, that there's no turning back. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now let's get started. The moment I discovered my wife, Selena, had betrayed me, is etched in my mind forever. There were no obvious signs, no suspicious stains on her clothes, no lingering perfume scent. It all started with her phone buzzing early in the morning, followed by a look in her eyes that I could only describe as fear. Over 12 years, we had created a life together. 2 children, countless vacations, even a second-hand dining table from our first home. I had always believed our bond was unbreakable, that everything we built was genuine. That morning, Selena looked like someone caught in a lie, gripping her phone as though it held a secret she could no longer conceal. I could have confronted her right there, but after working a late shift, I decided to gather more proof before taking action. A small part of me wanted revenge, and it was becoming harder to suppress it. I chose to wait, to observe. As days passed, Selena became more distant. She would often text secretly or slip into the pantry to take calls, whispering, work stuff, or just Kyle. But the smile on her face told a different story. I began to scrutinize our bank statements, late-night dinner charges, men's clothing that never found its way into my wardrobe. The clues began to form a clear picture. We had 2 wonderful children, Ella, 10, and Liam, 8, bright, inquisitive, and full of life. I worked endlessly to provide them with the best future I could. We had moved to a nicer home, enrolled them in better schools. Perhaps I had been too absorbed in my job, too blind to the decline in my marriage. Selena had always been close with her brother, Kyle, who often belittled me. He would call me a blue-collar nobody, someone who couldn't measure up to Selena. He'd boast about non-existent business deals, borrow money with no intention of paying it back, and flaunt his rented luxury car. Then, about 4 months ago, Selena began spending more nights with Kyle. But the real revelation came when I found receipts and phone records showing a new name, Gavin, her well-dressed co-worker, an accountant who exuded wealth and wore the unmistakable scent of expensive cologne. My anger began to rise, but the turning point came when I went to buy work supplies. My card was declined. I tried another card. Again, it was rejected. A call to the bank hit me like a hammer. All our accounts were wiped out, including the children's college fund. My heart raced as panic set in, and I rushed home, already knowing what I would find. Kyle stood smugly in our driveway as Selena directed movers, instructing them to load up boxes, furniture, and even the kids' books. When she saw me, her face twisted into a sneer. "You're a failure. I'm taking the kids and all the money. I deserve better than some broke construction worker." I looked at Kyle, who shot me a venomous smile before tossing a box into the trunk of his car. "Worthless loser," he sneered. "Selena's done with your pathetic act. Don't even try to stop her, or we'll have you arrested for harassment." For a moment, my vision blurred with rage. I thought back to all those nights I'd come home late, only to find Selena engrossed in texts with Gavin. I thought about the way she used to admire me when we first married, how proud she was that I could fix anything around the house. That pride had vanished, replaced by disdain. "You want a real show?" "Fine," she spat. "I'm done pretending you have a place in our lives. I've got a lawyer, full custody's already in the bag, and I've drained every account. You're nothing." I should have stormed up to her, demanded my kids back, but instead, a strange calm washed over me. My fury burned within me, but I realized that if I wanted to hurt them truly, I couldn't just lash out. Sometimes, the best way to strike is to let them think they've won. So, I stepped back, pulled out my phone and started recording. Kyle's eyes widened. "What are you doing, you idiot?" "Stop filming," he barked, grabbing a baseball bat from his car. "Who keeps a bat in their luxury vehicle?" He marched toward my truck, but I kept filming. His grin was anything but friendly. "Oh, you want a show?" he mocked. "Here's your damn show," he said, swinging the bat at my truck's headlights. Glass shattered. He continued to hit, leaving deep dents on the side of the vehicle. My phone captured every strike, every malicious grin he flashed. "Keep going," I said calmly, my voice steady. "Nice and clear for the camera. That's thousands of dollars in damage now, maybe more. You're really building a strong case for yourselves." Selena's face went white. "Stop, Kyle. He's filming you." Kyle let the bat fall from his hands as though it burned him. He muttered something under his breath, and I ended the recording. Sliding my phone back into my pocket, I said, "I guess that's enough for now." "Oh, and Selena," I called over my shoulder, "I hope you enjoy sorting through the mess you've created." Without another word, I turned and went inside, collecting the important documents I had hidden: birth certificates, business papers, anything that could serve me later. I stashed them safely away. Selena was still yelling when I came back out, but I didn't let it faze me. I climbed into my old truck and drove away, leaving the wreckage behind. That night, I stayed in a shabby motel, the air thick with the smell of stale cigarettes and the bitterness of regret. I stared at the flickering neon sign outside, reflecting on how easily Selena had destroyed the life we had built together. But I wasn't broken. I began reaching out to friends, quietly salvaging what remained of my finances. Selena had tried to drain all our personal accounts, but they were locked now. She had emptied what she could, but there were still enough loose ends to keep me afloat. A few days later, I discovered something that ignited a fire of revenge inside me. Selena wasn't merely involved with Gavin. She had bigger ambitions. She had already begun discussing moving in with him and even entertained the idea of marrying him once her divorce was finalized. Gavin strutted through the office, proudly boasting about Selena's departure from her caveman of a husband. They all believed I had vanished, just another ghost, someone they assumed wouldn't put up a fight. But they were gravely mistaken. For the next week, I wore the face of a broken man, pretending to accept my defeat. My truck, still running despite the significant damage to the front end, became my quiet companion. It took me to a modest apartment near Ella and Liam's new school, where I lay low. Each time Selena called, whether to gloat or make new threats, I played the part of the fool, pleading for another chance. She reveled in it, ranting about how she deserved someone better, casting me aside as a nobody. I meticulously recorded every single one of her outbursts, knowing I'd need them later. Soon enough, I had learned Gavin's routine through a mutual acquaintance. Every evening at 5:30 p.m., he would leave work and head straight to an upscale gym. Sometimes Selena would meet him there or join him afterward at his place. This was the perfect opportunity for me to begin plotting my next move. One evening, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. My heart skipped a beat when I answered it, only to hear Ella's voice, shaky with fear. "Dad," she whispered. "Mom's at Uncle Kyle's. She said I can't come visit you anymore, but I really want to." There was a click, then silence. The call ended abruptly. She had been cut off. A cold fury surged within me. This was it, the final straw. If they wanted a war, I would ensure they got one. There was one rule I held above all else. If you dare use my children as pawns in your twisted games, there's no going back. I dialed my old friend Russell, a towering figure with a temper to match. We'd known each other since childhood, and he owed me a favor from a legal mess I'd helped him out of years ago. Russell had a cousin, a foreman in charge of heavy machinery at various construction sites around the county. Upon hearing what Selena and Kyle had done, isolating me from my children, draining my finances, humiliating me, Russell didn't hesitate. "When do we start?" he asked. I explained my rough plan, which, though unpolished, would send a clear message no one could ignore. That night, Russell and I met at a secluded lot where heavy equipment was stored behind a chain-link fence. Russell's cousin stood guard as we found what we needed, an old bulldozer. When Russell turned the ignition, the machine roared to life, and I could feel my pulse quicken with anticipation. Days passed as I carefully observed Gavin. I needed him alone. No Selena, no witnesses. Then, one Friday evening, I saw him leave the office parking lot in his sleek silver car. I followed, staying at a safe distance. As we reached a quiet stretch of road beneath a half-completed overpass, Russell texted me. In position. Gavin hit a red light that seemed to last forever. This was the moment. I accelerated, cutting sharply in front of him to block his path. My damaged truck screeched to a halt, its tires grinding as it slid into position. Gavin slammed on his brakes, honking furiously. "What the hell?" he yelled. He stared at me as I stepped out of my truck. "Are you insane?" he shouted. "Get out of the way!" I moved toward him, calm and composed. "Get out of the car, Gavin." He hesitated, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles. "You're crazy. I'm calling the cops." I smirked. "Go ahead," I replied, pulling a baseball bat from behind my back. "I'll be done before they even get here." Just then, the bulldozer came into view, its immense frame barreling toward Gavin's car. Russell expertly maneuvered it, positioning the giant blade directly at the back of Gavin's sedan. Gavin's face drained of color as the machine inched closer. The bulldozer's massive blade collided with the trunk of his car, the sound of crumpling metal filling the air. Gavin scrambled to unbuckle his seatbelt, tumbling out of the car and onto the road. He spun around, arms raised as though trying to shield himself from the impending destruction. "You can't do this!" he screamed, his voice cracking. I grabbed him by the collar and yanked him toward me. "Do you feel it now?" I growled. "Do you understand what it's like when someone destroys everything you've built?" He shoved at me, but I was driven by a year's worth of betrayal. "Let go of me!" he yelled. Russell revved the bulldozer again, expertly angling the blade so it tore into the side of Gavin's car, the sound of metal scraping against metal deafening. The window shattered, glass cascading to the pavement. "Stop it! You're insane!" Gavin cried, his voice breaking with desperation. I pulled him closer, our faces mere inches apart. "You must be so proud of yourself. You took Selena from me, drained me of everything, and now you think you've won." She had warned me about him, called him a worthless, abusive man. His eyes widened in shock, and he gasped, unable to believe what he was hearing. "It wasn't anything personal," he stuttered. "I swear it wasn't personal." I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. "You touched my kids. You let her bleed every last penny from our accounts, and you think that's not personal?" I shoved him roughly against the side of my truck. He swung back at me, a weak punch grazing my shoulder. My heart hammered in my chest, the surge of adrenaline making everything sharper. With one swift motion, I swung the bat, and the impact landed solidly against his side. He collapsed to the ground, gasping for air, tears welling up in his eyes. My pulse raced, but for that fleeting moment, I felt unstoppable. Meanwhile, Russell was already at the controls of the bulldozer, smashing into the back of Gavin's car. The metal frame of the car buckled, folding under the pressure. "I'll make it right," Gavin mumbled, his voice unsteady. "I swear. I'll give you anything. Money, an apology, anything you want." I leaned in close, my voice low and menacing, as I spoke directly into his ear. "I don't want your money. What I want is for you to never forget this moment, the next time you think you can destroy someone's life without consequences." He tried to speak, but only a cough came out, spitting saliva as he struggled. The bat hovered near his ribs, a silent threat. I gave a brief nod to Russell. The bulldozer roared to life again, tearing into the rest of the car's side with a deafening screech. The wheels twisted unnaturally, and the sound of metal being torn apart filled the air. Glass and steel flew in every direction. I stepped closer, looming over Gavin. "You picked the wrong person to mess with." Before he could respond, I hoisted him off the ground and threw him onto the pavement with a hard thud. He hit the concrete with a sickening impact, his body jerking in pain as he tried to crawl away from the wrecked remains of his car. For a moment, I thought about going further, crushing both him and his beloved vehicle. But I stepped back, letting him struggle to get away, knowing that fear could be a far more powerful weapon than any physical harm. Russell backed the bulldozer away, leaving the mangled sedan in its wake. He climbed down and gave me a sharp, approving nod. We walked back to our vehicles, leaving Gavin writhing on the road behind us. The glow of streetlights flickered across the ruined car, and the sound of distant sirens filled the air. By the time they arrived, we had already disappeared into the darkness, well out of sight. By the time Selena heard about it, we were long gone. She had no idea who was behind the destruction or how it all unfolded. The rumors that spread said a bulldozer had appeared out of nowhere, but anyone who knew me could guess who was responsible. They couldn't prove it, but they were certain. I half expected Selena to call me in a rage, but the phone stayed silent, until the next day. When it finally rang, her voice was frosty, dripping with fury. "You're insane," she hissed. "You won't get away with this. Gavin's pressing charges. The cops will be here any minute." I took a slow breath. "I don't know what you're talking about. I was home, alone, last night," I said calmly. She let out a bitter laugh, but it was hollow, lacking conviction. "Don't think I won't destroy you for this. My lawyer will have a field day." "You crossed the line," she spat. My teeth clenched as I pictured her pacing in her new condo, gripping the phone tightly, her nails digging into her palm. "A line?" I asked, biting back my anger. "You crossed that line the moment you drained my kid's college fund." She retorted, "You're a total failure." "I should have left you years ago," I said, my words sharp and final. Then, the phone went dead. I stared at the screen, the silence ringing in my ears. My heart still pounded, a mix of excitement and dread, and though I knew there would be consequences, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Not yet. It wasn't long before the inevitable trouble arrived. A detective showed up at my apartment, asking a series of pointed questions. Sure, there was footage of a bulldozer on that deserted road, but the driver's face was hidden by a hooded jacket. My truck's license plate was conveniently obscured with duct tape. My neighbors swore I'd been home all night. Some even insisted they'd seen me take out the trash around 9 p.m. That was enough to cloud the issue, especially since Gavin, still shaken, couldn't give a clear identification. It turned out that Russell's cousin had taken care of the bulldozer, wiping down any fingerprints. No evidence, no case, at least for now. Meanwhile, the legal battle was heating up, but I had another pressing issue to handle: my kids. Selena had taken them to her new condo, but I filed for an emergency hearing. I brought bank statements showing how she'd emptied our accounts and presented videos of her brother smashing my truck. The judge wasn't blind. He could see something wasn't right. Although he couldn't directly tie me to the bulldozer incident, he saw that Selena wasn't fit to be parent of the year. Things got even more intense when I told the court how Selena had used the kids to hurt me. She denied it outright. He's an abusive man, Your Honor. I had no choice but to protect my children from his violent outbursts. My lawyer, Luis, calmly slid evidence across the table. It was my phone recordings, Selena calling me worthless, bragging about taking the kids and draining our accounts. The judge raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. The final nail in her coffin came from Ella's teacher, who testified about Ella's distress, saying, "Mommy won't let me see Daddy." By the end of the hearing, I had partial custody, much more than the zeros Selena had planned to give me. As we passed each other in the courthouse hallway, Selena shot me a venomous glare. "This isn't over," she snarled. Her hand balled into a fist, her rage palpable. "You're going to regret every single thing you've done," she spat with venom. I simply gave a nonchalant shrug. "You started this fight. I'm just finishing it." I dedicated as much time as possible to being with the kids, doing my best to shelter them from the chaos we were entangled in. Whenever they were with me, we'd head out to local parks, and I'd teach them basic skills around the house. Ella had soccer practice in the evenings, and I made sure to attend every single session. Liam had a passion for building elaborate Lego sets, and together we assembled a dinosaur robot that both of us found absurdly cool. I wanted to give them a sense of normalcy, something steady to cling to, but Selena's arrogance remained unshaken. She continued to host extravagant parties at her condo, lavishly spending the money she had drained from our accounts. She likely felt untouchable, even though the courts were closing in on her like sharks. Gavin, according to the whispers, was about to walk away. After the bulldozer incident, he had turned into a nervous wreck, likely regretting ever becoming involved with Selena. But she refused to acknowledge it. Her sole focus was on breaking me, forcing me to submit, no matter the cost. Then came the day Kyle decided to confront me at my job site. I was almost finished installing custom cabinetry when he walked in wearing sunglasses, clearly trying to cover up a recent bruise. Someone had clearly given him a good hit. He made a show of criticizing the work, knocking on the cabinets and loudly declaring them to be made of subpar materials. "If you're going to ruin my sister's life, at least do it with better supplies," he sneered. I exhaled slowly, wiped my hands on a rag, and turned to face him. "You shouldn't be here," I said evenly. He stepped closer, invading my personal space. "You think I'm just going to sit back and let you destroy my sister without consequences?" He spat. My coworker, Toby, was in the next room and peeked around the corner, clearly concerned. I gave him a quick nod, signaling that I had everything under control. "You're the one who wrecked my truck," I calmly reminded him. "And I still have the video," I added, my voice steady. Kyle shrugged and flashed a sinister grin. "You think I care? I've got more than enough ways to bury you if you show that video to the cops." "Sure," I said, letting sarcasm drip from my voice. "Because you're such a business mogul. What was your latest triumph again? The luxury vape lounge that never even opened." Before I could say another word, his hand shot out to shove me in the chest. I didn't budge. He was tall, but had the lean frame of someone who never did physical labor. I, on the other hand, spent my days hauling wood and mixing cement. He was nothing to me. "Don't you dare talk about my business," he growled. "Stay away from my sister. She's going to take everything from you, and you'll end up nothing but a sobbing mess in the gutter." I let out a quiet laugh, the sound bouncing off the unfinished walls. "Let her try. You have no clue what you're up against." Kyle's jaw clenched, but he took a step back. "This isn't over," he warned, his words eerily similar to Selena's. "I'll make sure you regret crossing us." With that, he stormed out, slamming the door so hard that the hinges rattled. Toby stepped out of the other room, worry etched on his face. "That was Selena's brother?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, all bark, no bite." Didn't seem harmless to me. Toby muttered, but he didn't push the topic. Deep down, I could feel the tight coil of vengeance winding within me. Kyle always seemed to show up at the most inconvenient times, throwing threats around like they were second nature. Maybe it was time to make him truly fear me. But for now, I decided to wait. I wanted my next move to land with maximum impact. 2 weeks later, after more legal wrangling, Selena tried to prevent me from seeing the kids again, accusing me of being unstable. When I presented the custody agreement to the officers at the precinct, they confirmed that I had every right to pick them up at the designated time. That evening, I went to her condo. She cracked the door open just enough to glare at me through the chain. "Go away," she snapped. "My kids are supposed to be with me tonight," I replied, keeping my voice even, though the anger simmered beneath the surface. She let out a bitter laugh. "They don't want to see you." I raised an eyebrow, trying to peer around the door. I could hear footsteps inside, likely Ella or Liam. "You're pushing them away again." She ignored my comment and leaned closer, her face almost pressed against the door. "You think you're so clever with your tough guy routine. Everyone knows you wrecked Gavin's car. They're just waiting for proof." I sighed in frustration. Selena opened the door a little wider. "Now. Make me." At that moment, her phone rang. She glanced down at the screen to check the caller ID, distracted. I saw my chance. I shoved the door hard, breaking the chain. She staggered back, gasping. The living room was a disaster. Half-empty wine bottles and discarded clothes strewn across the floor. The stench of stale alcohol filled the air. My kids were nowhere to be seen. "Where are Ella and Liam?" I demanded. She pointed toward their bedroom door. "You'll regret breaking into my condo like this." I stepped inside, forcing myself to remain calm. I had to be smart. "Where are my kids?" I asked again, my voice low but insistent. "Kids? It's Dad." I was the first to see them, Liam emerging first, his eyes wide with shock. Ella quickly followed, her face pale, anxiety painted across every inch of her expression. They rushed toward me, seeking solace in my arms. "Mom says we can't come with you anymore," Ella murmured softly, her voice trembling, tears threatening to spill. "She said you were violent, but you're not violent, Dad." Her words tore through me. I shot a fierce look toward Selena. "Get your things together, kids," I instructed. "You're coming with me tonight." Selena's fists clenched in fury. "No, they're not. I won't let it happen." I didn't budge. "We have a court order. You want to call the cops? Go ahead. Do it. We'll see who they back when they see all this." I gestured to the filthy mess of the living room. "Go on, make the call." Selena's rage twisted her features, but she didn't move to dial. Instead, she seethed silently as the kids scrambled to pack their bags, stuffing clothes and toys into whatever they could. When they were done, I took each of their hands. Selena followed us down the hall, her curses echoing behind us. Without a second thought, I slammed the door in her face. A few nights later, as Ella and Liam slept soundly in my apartment, I received a call from Russell. "Heard Kyle's planning to ambush you on your way to a late-night job," Russell warned. "Says he's going to teach you a lesson." My heart raced at the news. If Kyle wanted to escalate things, I was ready. I made arrangements for someone to look after the kids, then climbed into my old truck. By 9 p.m., I spotted Kyle's BMW tailing me. A grim smile tugged at my lips. This was exactly what I had been expecting. I took a turn onto a quiet road near the scrapyard, where Russell had access to heavy machinery. A backhoe's shadow loomed under the dim light of a flickering street lamp. Kyle revved his engine, headlights blinding in my mirrors. I stopped the truck, stepped out, and waited. Kyle screeched to a halt behind me. He got out, wielding a baseball bat, and smashed my headlights with one swing. The sound of the impact echoed in the stillness. Two of his shady associates emerged from the back seat, flanking him. Kyle swung the bat with a grin. "Took you long enough to stop," he taunted. "Now it's time to finish this." I responded with a quiet, steady voice, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't agree more. My eyes shifted to the side. Russell stepped from the shadows, silent but imposing. He was unarmed, but his sheer presence spoke volumes, muscles that could break stone. Kyle's thugs shifted uneasily, but Kyle remained unfazed. "Oh, so you brought muscle?" he mocked. "Makes this even more fun." I locked eyes with Kyle. "You and Selena took my money, tried to take my kids, humiliated me. You thought I'd just walk away. You were wrong." Kyle laughed, mocking me. "We took what was ours. You're just bitter because you're a loser with no power. But guess what? You're still a loser. You can't scare me." I let his words hang in the air for a moment before unlocking the tailgate of my truck. Inside was a crowbar. I gripped it firmly, keeping my eyes locked on him. "I'm no hero. I'm not a good man, but you'll regret thinking I'm an easy target." His confident smirk faltered, but he raised the bat, undeterred. One of his goons rushed toward me, swinging a metal pipe. Russell intercepted him, landing a brutal punch that sent the man crashing to the ground. The second thug tried to tackle me, but I swung the crowbar, slamming it into his ribs. He collapsed with a scream, clutching his side. Kyle rushed forward, swinging the bat toward my shoulder. I sidestepped, the bat grazing my arm. Pain shot through me, but adrenaline kept me focused. I swung the crowbar, striking his wrist. The bat fell from his hand with a sharp cry of pain. Russell was handling his own fight, keeping the other two men down with controlled, devastating blows. Kyle staggered back, cursing under his breath. I moved forward, grabbing him by the collar. My voice trembled with fury. "You think you're tough, swinging that bat at my truck? Let's see how tough you are without it." Kyle threw a punch at me, but I brought the crowbar down hard on his thigh. He howled in pain, dropping to one knee, sweat dripping down his face. He glared at me with pure hatred. "You'll pay for this!" he hissed, venom in his eyes. I stood over him, breathing heavily. "I already have," I replied coldly. "Thanks to you and Selena." With that, I swung a final punch, my fist connecting with his jaw. He crumpled onto the cracked asphalt, unable to rise again. Russell towered above the others, both of them groaning and clutching their injured limbs. The moment I slammed Kyle into the ground, it was as if something in them snapped. They knew they were finished. One scrambled toward the BMW, moving in a frantic mix of crawling and stumbling. The other limped after him, both of them bolting without even glancing back, leaving Kyle sprawled on the pavement. For a split second, I considered walking away, letting him suffer. But something rawer and more instinctive took over. I headed straight for Kyle's car, popped the trunk, and rummaged through the clutter until my fingers found a compact toolkit. Nestled inside was a reciprocating saw, probably stashed there to scare people. The irony made me smirk. I yanked it out and turned to Russell, my grip firm. He met my eyes and gave a curt nod. "Do it." We moved toward the car together, and I fired up the saw. The blade shrieked as it spun to life, sparks bursting as it chewed through the metal. Every loud, grinding cut felt like a release, an outlet for the rage simmering beneath the surface. The air grew thick with the acrid stench of scorched paint and torn steel. By the time I was done, an ugly gash scarred the side of Kyle's prized BMW. Bloodied and bruised, he pushed himself up with shaking arms, horror etched on his face. "Please, stop," he gasped. I let the saw wind down to silence and looked directly at him. My voice was low, cold. "Next time it won't just be your car." His eyes widened in fear. Russell flung the bent pipe he'd taken from Kyle's guys. The metal clanged hard against the asphalt, the sound echoing into the night. Satisfied, I nodded to Russell. We climbed into my truck and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Kyle on all fours next to the wreckage, stunned. I knew he wouldn't dare cross that line again. When Selena found out, she spun the story, calling me a psychopath who destroyed a helpless man's car. But with Kyle in the hospital, broken wrist, badly bruised face, and video proof of him trashing my truck, the police chalked it up to mutual retaliation. My attorney, Luis, was already deep in negotiations over custody. The judge, clearly tired of Selena's stunts, hiding income, turning the kids against me, letting strangers party at the house, was beginning to see things my way. The divorce itself ended with barely a ripple. A quick hearing, a few legal formalities, and it was over. Selena looked like a ghost of the woman I once knew. Hair messy, blouse wrinkled, eyes sunken with exhaustion. The glamorous facade was gone. She tried to put on a brave face, but behind the glare was defeat. "We could have ended this differently," I said quietly, just loud enough for her to hear. "If you hadn't tried to burn it all down." She gave a dry, joyless laugh. "You never deserved any of it. You're nothing." I shrugged. "Maybe, but I'm not the one who lost everything." Her lip curled in disdain. "Don't think you've won. You're still broke." I gestured to where our kids stood with a social worker, waiting. "I've got something you'll never buy back. Their respect. And mine." She opened her mouth, ready to strike back, but the bailiff raised a hand for silence. The judge spoke the final words. I had full custody. Selena was granted limited supervised visits. The asset division was straightforward. My business accounts stayed mine. She had to repay what she'd taken. The credit card debt she secretly racked up in my name, fraud, proven. She was liable. The child support ruling hit her hardest, especially since she'd weaponized the kids. The judge's closing words hit like a gavel to the past. "This marriage is dissolved. All financial ties are severed, except as laid out in the settlement." Selena didn't shed a tear, didn't argue. She just stared ahead, locked in denial. I walked out with slow steps, not triumphant, but with a weight slowly lifting off my chest. 12 years of marriage, now just legal paperwork and painful memories. Still, I felt something I hadn't in years. Freedom. That evening I took Ella and Liam to the diner around the corner. We ordered milkshakes. It wasn't grand, but it was real. A small step towards something new. My arm throbbed where Kyle had hit me with the bat. My truck was dented, scarred. My bank account was a fragile thing. But I had a clean slate. And somehow, every wound and betrayal had led to this. Something that felt like the beginning of healing. Ella rested her head on my shoulder as we sipped our milkshakes. "Dad," she asked softly, "are you happy?" I paused, caught off guard. Happy didn't quite fit. Not yet. "I'm okay," I told her, brushing her hair gently. "And I'll feel better soon." Liam looked up, eyes wide. "Mom said you're a bad guy." The words hit like a punch. I swallowed hard. "Sometimes, buddy, people act out when they're hurt." "I'm not perfect," I admitted, "but everything I did, it was to protect you both." Ella reached out, her small hand wrapping around mine. "We know," she whispered. In that quiet moment, something inside me shifted. No matter how deep my anger had run, no matter how dark I'd let myself get, Ella and Liam were my light. They were what pulled me back from the edge. The only thing that gave me strength to keep moving forward were their tiny fingers clutching mine, and the unshakable trust they placed in me. Over time, Kyle's intimidation slowly dissolved into nothing. Gavin, humiliated by the whole bulldozer fiasco, packed up and relocated across state lines, chasing a job that would put the whole mess behind him. As for Selena, cut off from the money she used to lean on, she was forced to trade her lavish lifestyle for a cramped apartment and a job she openly loathed. The rumor mill eventually found new material, leaving our story to collect dust. Those who once whispered that Selena had traded up when she left me began to fall silent as the real story came out. Her lies, her betrayal. A few had the decency to admit they were wrong and offer apologies. Most just quietly drifted away, too embarrassed to face me, but by then I had stopped caring what any of them thought. The last time I exchanged words with Selena was outside the courthouse, minutes after the divorce was finalized. Her stare was sharp and bitter, loaded with fury. "You'll never amount to anything," she hissed at me, poison in every syllable. I inhaled slowly, steadying the storm inside me. Maybe not, I replied calmly. But at least I'm free of someone who'd sell their soul for a cheap thrill. Have fun with your new reality. She looked like she was on the verge of exploding, either with a slap or a scream, but instead, she turned sharply and marched back into the building without another word. That was our ending. No dramatic farewells, no emotional confessions. Just two former lovers, now strangers, bound by bitterness and scars. I remained there for a moment, watching her vanish. Then I turned and went home, to the only people who truly mattered. Let her think what she wants. I knew the truth. I walked away whole, and that was victory enough. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you!